Well, good day, Rogue Valley Manor and First Christian Church. We're here today, and after a couple of week vacation, I get to join back with Pastor Stacy. She let me back in to her office.
Willingly, even.
So, first and foremost, how's it been? How's it like not being around me for 3 weeks? Peaceful?
No, actually, it was the wrong 3 weeks, evidently, to take off. I am never taking a staycation again, I've decided. And no, it wasn't peaceful. I didn't miss you, but here we are again anyway. And just kidding.
Well, we had a good couple of weeks with Reverend Mary and then Pastor Randy, and then last week we actually began on Tuesday, but we got interrupted by the fire, and so we had to cancel that recording, and we picked it back up on Thursday. So first and foremost, thank you to Pastor Randy, Reverend Mary, and Reverend Joyce for stepping in and being part of Spiritually Speaking. Well, today we're going to sum up the scripture, and we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, maybe a little bit about the fire and our response to the fire, and how we as spiritually led people might approach it.
Yeah.
So would you tell us a little bit about the passage?
Sure. Our passage is from Matthew 20, and it is the story of the workers in the vineyard. And you probably know the story about a landowner who hires workers from the town throughout the day. And he makes a deal with every group of workers. Some workers work 8 hours or 12 hours. Some workers work 1 hour. At the end of the day, they all get paid the same. And then there's outrage over that by the workers who worked long hours. And the landowner says, I made a deal with all of you. I am keeping my word to you. And this is how this is going to be. And interesting text for me around the experience I had with the fire. Joel would, in our text, be one of those people who worked early on in the day and worked all day and all night. I struggled to feel like I was of use during this experience, and really had a hard time finding direction, and didn't occur to me to call you and ask you where help might be needed, but have the sense of being one of those workers that showed up for the last hour in some ways right now. And I don't feel great about it. It isn't that I didn't try, but it just is how it ended up working out. And I don't know. I'm going to reflect more on that text with that in mind, but I'm curious to hear about your experience, because I think you're pretty up close and personal with all of that for the last week. So
yeah, I will do that. But as you were talking, I was thinking about an experience that's directly related to this passage for me. I think it was about 14 years ago. I was helping out at a secular Jewish camp up in New Hampshire. Someone came up to me and they found out how much other people were making versus how much they were making.
Yeah.
And it really discouraged them. And they found out different people, the cooks, the servers, the activities people, even though if they were in the same area, they made different. And I just remember sitting down with this person, talking with them and unpacking their frustration with making less, $100, $200 less than someone who was doing their same job.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him, I said, so before you came, did you sit and talk with the director? Yes. Are you doing what the director said that you would be doing the camp? Yes. Do you like it? Yes. Did you agree upon this amount? Yes. So you're happy in all the areas except when you compared what someone made in your same department, and then you got disappointed. And so we began to unpack that. But I got them to come to the place of saying the organization itself honored the contract, and you were happy fulfilling that contract, except when you did a comparison. And I think we find that in everyday life when we compare ourselves with others who have more, or we have less, or we did the same amount of work, we get upset.
Well, and I have to say, I always have thought of it in that exactly how you just phrased it this time, because I feel like I was one of the workers who showed up at the last hour. I am looking at it a little bit differently, and am also looking at those times when I find out that I am being paid more, or whatever it is. I'm a pastor and I'm a female, so the chances of me being paid more are very small. But just when I see that I have received something and someone else hasn't, to say it's up to me to create justice in that situation. And not, whoever we agreed with that this was how it was going to be, and to work differently towards that. I haven't looked at it from that perspective before, but just because of how the week went, had my eye on that a little bit more than I would normally. So, yeah.
Well, we did have the fire this week.
Yeah, would you share some of your experience?
Sure. The day of the fire, I was called because I'm a fire chaplain at the fire department. I was called and said there's a fire. So I went up on top of the roof of the manor, took some pictures of the actual fire. And I could see it, and I could see the flames. There was a good 25, 35-foot flame coming from Phoenix, from right across from Home Depot. Okay. And I could see, and it was the furniture at a furniture place that just went up. Probably some petroleum products too, because when you see black, that's usually petroleum product. Of course, everything has petroleum in it. But so I called my friend who was in the command center, and I said, what's going on? I know several people who are firefighters and chiefs. And I said, hey, what's going on? I'm up at the manor. He said, it's bad. And we don't have the resources to really address this. It's going to probably get worse. And as a former fire captain in the United States Army, those are things you don't want to hear. Sure. Not enough personnel, not enough apparatus, not enough water supply. During the time of talking to him, it became abundantly clear when the planes kept circling from the airport back to the fire, which was telling me that this thing was way out of control. They were dumping retardant on an actual civilian community. That's very rare, but it's also the numerous times they were dumping retardant. Yeah. I knew this thing was fast moving. So at the same time, we began to do evacuation. We got the level 2 evacuation at the manor, and then it became level 3. And so our administration was right on it, all hands on deck. And so everyone's there. Some people went to the country club from the manor. Some people went to Grants Pass. Some people went all the way up to Canyonville. And some people went to a skilled care facility here in Medford. And so I said in a journal writing, that was a minor miracle. Someone said, I would change it to a miracle. I'd change it to a miracle.
Nothing minor about it.
Yeah, Rosa Romano said, that was more than a minor miracle. Yeah. We had a peaceful transition and transaction of evacuating 1,000 people.
Yeah, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, all hands on deck. Administrators from frontline staff to managers were all helping out and doing their best. So by the time we evacuated the portion that I was helping out, I was helping out in all the areas, but mostly by the time we got the campus evacuated, I went over to the country club where there's about 400 of our members evacuated and interact with people. The country club, I give them a lot of credit. Not only did they open up their facility, they put out a call asking for people to bring pillows, blankets, beds that could help the residents spend the night. That was the country club. All kudos for them.
Yeah.
And then later that night, about 12:30, 1 o'clock, I went down, and I'm a fire chaplain, so I went down and I could get into the actual fire scene, and went to a staging area, talked to one of the trucks. They were telling me that it's bad, and they had to keep moving the fire line because they could not control the fire. The winds were crazy. And they said, hey, do you have any saline that we can put in our eyes because the fire's in our eyes? And I said, I'll go try to find some. Nothing was open in Medford. And so I went to Providence Hospital, where I work part-time as a chaplain, and went to the ER. And the ER nurse, Chris Stenson, gave me a whole box of saline. I took it to the firefighters, and they were overly grateful.
Yeah.
Overly grateful. And then I got with the battalion chief and ran around, maneuvered the area to check and see where there were spot fires. Portland sent 5 trucks to come down, and another one of our chiefs in the fire department in Medford, who was running that area of the fire, made an unorthodox move and said, we're going to take a stand. We're going to fight this. We're going to attack the fire. At one time, they had 5 rigs with turrets pouring into an area, and they had to back up because they couldn't
keep it.
No. So with Portland's trucks, with District 3, District 5, Medford Fire, they went in and they attacked the fire. Probably saved, I gave an estimate of 150 to 200 homes.
Wow.
But they probably saved more like 400 or 500 homes. That was amazing. It was amazing because it was people I knew and loved. The next day when I went out, the same people were there. They were there for like 48 hours.
Yeah.
Still fighting fire, resting whenever they could. But that was amazing. Then went back to the country club, or 7 o'clock we had a meeting at Manor. Went back to the Manor. We were staying in place until we got a green light to come back to the Manor. Later that morning, we got a green light, so about 11 o'clock or so, we started moving back people to the Manor from the country club. But we still had other departments or other areas of our other areas of the Manor that were in different locations. They didn't come back, but the majority of people in independent living came back that morning. Again, all hands on deck, people engaged. You're dealing with shock. As a firefighter and as a fire chaplain, the first couple of days to week is kind of shock about all that's happened. You're trying to give emotional first aid and support, and you're trying to be present. And as a minister, and as just a person, you're trying to also process yourself. Okay, what's really going on? My family had to evacuate. But my oldest son was working at another retirement community, and he had to help evacuate that community. The manager called my wife and said, your son was wonderful. And I said, he is wonderful, but you don't live with him.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, the first 24 to 36 hours, some Manor employees worked a 48-hour shift, 36 to 48-hour shift, especially if they're one of the care areas. Who, one of our areas went all the way up to Canyonville.
Really?
One went to Grants Pass,
Wow.
So, excellent frontline staff, excellent management, excellent administration support.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and excellent residents.
Right.
Excellent residents. During the week I saw someone from First Christian Church. I was kind of out of it, and they walked by and said, "Hey, Father Joel," and I'm like, I couldn't tell who it was because of the mask.
Right.
But I was in a blur and I hadn't had much sleep, and I said, "Hey, so and so," and they said who they were, and they were, First Christian Church. I said, "Oh yeah," and it's almost like we gave each other a hug with smiles. Even though I couldn't see her smile, you could see the eyes. His eyes, and that was wonderful.
Yeah, that's been a common experience. It's been really hard not to touch during the last week. There's been a lot of the hugging through smiles going on.
Yeah, we break the rule a little bit. People
Yeah.
come into our office at the manager. I just need a hug.
Yeah.
So we go in
It's
there
hard.
with our masks on. We give
Mhm.
people a hug. We let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The day of the actual fire, my son was in class online with his teacher.
Yeah, me too.
Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dawson said, I have to let you go.
Mhm.
I'm being evacuated. And he lost his whole house.
Oh. Where is he? Phoenix or Talent?
Talent, believe.
Uh-huh.
Talent. Yeah, he lost his house. So my son was affected not only by helping, he was affected the day of the fire because he was in Zoom class. Yeah.
Yeah, we had that same experience of having to. One of the kids in Lily's class said, "I'm scared. I can see the smoke," and they ended up leaving early because some of the kids had to evacuate. So.
There's some people in Talent in Phoenix who had less than 10 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes to get whatever they wanted and go. In fact, I was talking to 51 employees at Rogue Valley Manor were affected by this fire, displaced.
Wow.
21 people lost everything.
Oh.
I was talking with one of the employees just before I came here, and she said, I told my children, just grab a couple of things. The city's not going to let the town burn down. And the city tried their best.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't help it.
Yeah.
So they grabbed a couple of computers and a couple of things. And that's all they had. They did. And then her parents were also evacuated. So they had to go to Grants Pass. The parents' homes survived, and so they're with the parents now. But
good.
Yeah, it was surreal.
Mm-hmm.
It was surreal.
Yeah, it's continued to be that way.
Yeah, 21 employees, 21 RV employees. Now, our foundation has been raising money, and they've been doing an excellent job.
Good.
And then their community services.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just let you know, on Saturday, I was helping out at the expo, and there's a lot of resources and Red Cross volunteers and a shelter in the facility there. And I was helping with them. And then Saturday night, I went to Harry and David, where people who either lost their house, didn't know if they lost their house, or are displaced and can't go back home but want to go get things out of their house, they would queue up, line up at Harry and David Field, and they get a police escort. They had to prove that they lived there because we had looting earlier in the week.
Oh, yeah.
And they had to get a police escort to go down to their, for 10 minutes. They had only 10 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
And then they had to get their stuff or check what they wanted and then come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was queuing up, and this person came forward, and it was an RVM employee.
Oh, wow.
One of our employees. I'm looking at them. They were like,
it's kind of startling.
People were waiting 3 to 5 hours
for 10 minutes at home.
To go 10 minutes at home. I mean, they were queued up, and we didn't have as many police people on Saturday night. We probably did. We just had the need was greater.
Right, yeah.
And so a bunch of chaplains were down there working that, volunteers, church members at one of the local churches, anyone who wanted to help. And one of the last 3 cars was a Manor employee, and I got to talk with him. Sunday, my family, wife and kids, and Rosa Romano, who's in our foundation, we went back. We did a short prayer and a song, and then I had wrote a devotional from when I was a firefighter, and we just went around the cars and listened. And if people wanted us to pray, we'd pray with them, and a lot of listening.
Where did you do it?
Harry and David.
Okay,
Harry and David. As people were waiting to go back in, and so we would meet with them, say a couple words of encouragement, but mostly just listen.
Sure.
And then yesterday I got a call. Everybody knows somebody who got affected by this. Well, my brother-in-law's friend up in Astoria's mom was in Talent, and they told her if she leaves, she couldn't get back in. She had no electricity. I'm not sure if she had water, but she had no electricity, but she didn't want to leave her home. So they couldn't get food in. They had very little food. They showed me, this is how much food we had before you came. And they didn't want to leave. They wanted to be around their home. They wanted to protect their home. There's about 10 families. So I called a couple of people. I called a couple of friends, called a resident, Carolyn Turner helped out, who's a resident at the manor. Mark Mitchell, who's a friend of mine, called Pastor Murray, who is down at First Presbyterian Church. He gave me some baby wipes. This is where I forgot to call you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I know.
Me floundering over here.
Well, I probably got hurt that you left me for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I'm working through that.
Betrayal.
Yeah. Betrayal.
Okay.
And so I went and got some food. Access was great. And by the way, if you're wanting to volunteer, access at their warehouse, and then access sites
and here on Mondays 10 to 2.
Yeah,
we need people lots of times.
10 to 2 at First Christian Church, and that's where you hand out food. And I think Wednesday is First Presbyterian Church, but the warehouse as well. Well, I picked up some food, and since I have a badge, I can get into the fire line. And so I just took the food. It's like, sneaking food into the enemy lines.
Yeah.
But basically got a bunch of food from Access, some food from First Pres, some food from Providence Hospice, and we went down there and gave it to the 10 families that were there. They were very thankful, overly thankful. But that was yesterday, and I think this is a 9/11 event.
Yeah.
That everyone's coming out
for us,
to help
for
everyone.
sure.
Yeah. People have thanked me and thanked my family for what my wife also made our garage into a warehouse, and people have been donating things, and she's been taking them to different locations. But I'll be honest with you, whether I do a little or do a lot, I still feel like I didn't do enough. I don't care how much I've done or how much I didn't do. In a time like this, you feel like, well, I could have just done a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you got to own that feeling.
Yep.
And then you got to let it go.
Yeah.
But I struggle with that.
Oh man, it's been pretty rough, I have to say. I'm also not having quite as many connections just because of not living here for too long. Just trying to figure out, who to call was a struggle. And I have, am owning my own stuff in that, but it's going to be a process to work through. The other piece that I have found some solace in is we have an organization in our denomination called Week of Compassion that works with the 1 Great Hour sharing branches that a lot of other churches work with, and they do the disaster relief, and they were amazing. They communicated with me starting on Tuesday night and have kept touch every day still till yesterday, and will continue to do so. But I sent Carolyn at Week of Compassion a note and just said, I can't get through to the Red Cross. I can't get through to the police department. I can't figure out how to get a hold of the city to try and, make the church a evacuation site or, something to let them know that we're here. And she just said, sometimes you have to maybe take a break because you're going to be called upon down the road, and you'll be ready for that. And so I've kind of tried to of course, be open to when that call is coming, but also to sort of say it's okay if this second isn't the second that I'm doing the hard work. And then, we have received lots of supplies from all over Oregon. We had a train from Hood River. They brought supplies from Hood River to Portland, to the church in Portland, and then the church it was in Beaverton. Area churches, though, in Portland added to those supplies, and then they got driven from Beaverton to Salem and transferred into another vehicle that drove them to Eugene, and transferred another vehicle, drove them to Roseburg, transferred to another vehicle, and drove them here. I collected supplies from churches all along the way, and it's just amazing. And super inspiring, and I think we dropped off some supplies along the way because they were having in Lebanon some fires there, and anyway, it's just one of those things that like brought people together so much in different ways, which is sort of that 9/11 piece,
Yeah.
One of the things that the woman from Week of Compassion said is that people are real eager to help in these moments, and it's a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year down the line that people sort of forget. And I think that's part of the call I hear in this is that sense of some people lost everything and don't have the ability to make it up, and so figuring out how to be present in the midst of that, and being in that suffering with them, trying to figure it out. So it's
Can I just, Pastor Stacy, I think you hit it on the head. For those of us, even though I evacuated, our house is still standing. We have everything that we've ever owned still with us. And I think the toughest part of being a friend, not just being a minister, but being a friend, is walking with people, not trying to fix it, just walking with people and loving them in the pain, the grief, and the destruction all around.
Yeah.
And just being an ambassador in the sense of being a light by listening.
Yeah.
Like you just said, stepping into the pain with them.
Yep. Yeah. And that's a long journey for a lot of folks right now. So
yeah.
Kind of going back to the text, we need people to show up at the last hour.
Right.
All the hours are important. So,
but for our listeners, what would you offer them as a guide to spiritually enter into this time? I know it's a general question, but any thoughts that come to your mind?
Yeah. People don't like hearing them usually, but to really allow yourself to be in whatever stage of that grief process you're in. And for me, I won't speak for anyone else, but I do think it probably registers with others. A lot of the stages of grief are pretty uncomfortable for me, and I want to get through them quickly. But what typically happens for me if I try to do that is that it comes out sideways, and I end up emotionally injuring myself or others. For me, it's helpful to kind of recognize, just name it, and frequently name that I'm hating it, and wish that I could do this differently than I am, but I'm doing it the best I can. So I think that's a piece of it, is just allowing yourself to be in it wherever you are, and naming it so that you come out a little healthier with it than you might if you ignore it.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Yeah.
One of the things that was amazing, we have an amazing group of people, but we're really close in resident services where spiritual care is located. And so I have an excellent supervisor, I have excellent coworkers, and even the coworkers down my hall. We're close. Some of them are personal friends. And it's wonderful to know that you have a team of people being part of it. And so I think with that being said, I'd say be conscious that you don't begin to adopt that you're all alone.
Yeah.
In situations like this, you're not alone. You just might not feel like you're being heard.
Yeah.
And so I would say constantly challenge that inner voice that might be telling you you're alone, because you're not alone.
Yeah.
The other thing is look to see where God is moving. Look to see where the holy is at. And oftentimes, I'm not talking about metaphysical experiences. I'm talking about in the communities in which you live. You're going to see goodness. You're going to see grace. You're going to see peace. And you're going to see one of the most important things for our own well-being is gratitude. Without comparison. just gratitude.
Yeah.
Being grateful for what you have. Well, I've missed you.
I've missed you. I'm glad we're sort of back to normal.
Sort of.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means, yeah. But there is support with friendships.
Yep.
And I get a lot of support from Pastor Stacy.
Me too.
And so look out for the people in your community that are your good friends and support them as they support you.
Amen.
Amen. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.